What's up, everybody? This is the latest round of the sixth round with Jay Pound, and I'm here today to focus in on UFC 193. Um, this event that just took place yesterday, Sunday morning, early afternoon if you live in Australia, Saturday night as usual for those of us in the States. Basically, I'm just going to recap the main event and the event as a whole, maybe touch on the co-main. I don't want to make this too long because there's a lot that could be said. As far as the event as a whole, not the best. You look at the main card, it looked like there was some potential there. At least it seemed like four of the five fights could be very entertaining. In actuality, it was like, I don't know, maybe two and a half of the fights were entertaining to the casual fan, and obviously the pay-per-views are going to do very well on this. So I'm assuming a lot of casual fans were getting, their rare view at what the UFC product is. Obviously, the opening fight of the main card, not the best fight to open the card. That's for sure, as far as entertainment value. But let's just focus ahead and go to the main event because I know that's what people want to know about. Obviously, a true stunner. And if you looked at my UFC 193 preview, obviously, I didn't see this coming. Quite a few people didn't see this coming. I mean, this was just one of those rare upsets that nobody really predicted or saw coming. I saw people on Twitter saying, "Of course, I knew it." Unless you had big money on Holly Holm, and I don't want to hear that you were very confident going into this fight that Holly had a chance. Those who popped down big money and were very confident, then hey, more power to you. You guys are geniuses. Let's talk about the fight, man. Basically, you saw Ronda very rattled, and it kind of reminded me of Mike Brown, Uriah Hall 1. Mike Brown, Uriah Faber 1. Excuse me, too many Uriahs in the sport. Uriah Faber 1. That was if you notice coming into that fight, the Mike Brown Uriah fight, Uriah was kind of seen as like the this unbeatable champ for the WEC. He was their poster boy. He was everything the WEC needed at that time, and it just seemed like everyone they put in front of him, he was going to destroy. Well, he got put up against Mike Brown, who's a big 145er, and Mike Brown muscled him, threw him around the cage, and you saw Faber get very frustrated and do things that he doesn't normally do, and he got caught, and the fight was over. This fight had that same kind of feel. Ronda came in. I'm not sure what the game plan was, but I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, what was Ronda's game plan?" To be honest with you, I don't think Ronda has much of a game plan when she comes into fights anyway. I think she kind of just feels fights out and then goes where she feels comfortable. Well, she wasn't comfortable anywhere in this fight. If you look at it, standing, Holly did a great job of just moving, hitting her with that stiff left, man. That stiff left must have connected flush about 6, 7 times. And, Ronda had no answer for it. Maybe it was Ronda's inexperience fighting a southpaw, but obviously her inexperience fighting someone that seasoned. Holly standing in that southpaw position, that straight left was there all night. All night. So if she didn't hit her with that head kick at the end of the fight, she would have peppered her with that the entire fight, and it probably would have ended it at some point anyway. The first round, you see Ronda getting very frustrated. She's chasing Holly all over the cage. She gets Holly down to the mat. Now this is where it was kind of interesting. She got Holly down to the mat in kind of that same position that her and Kat Zingano were in. You see her go for the armbar, and you see this is where I thought Holly might panic because I felt like as long as they were on the feet and if Holly was doing okay in the exchanges, I feel like Holly was going to be in the fight. But my thought was, when Ronda gets into the ground, Holly's just not going to be well versed there, and it's going to be game over. Well, you could tell she's practiced a lot of different positions on the ground because as soon as she got in that position, she knew exactly what she needed to do to escape. She stayed calm, and Ronda wasn't really able to get any offense from her taking her down. So that was pretty surprising. I figured once that happened, and they stood back up, and Ronda was just getting torched on the feet. I figured, Ronda's just going to do whatever she can to get to the ground because she's taking way too much damage on the feet. At the end of the first round, you can hear Edmund's corner telling her, hey, giving her like this weird advice. And, my advice would have been, I'm not a corner man. Edmund knows way more about the fight game than I will ever know. But I think it's pretty obvious that the game plan should not be to stand with Holly Holm. The game plan should be to cut off the cage, force her up against force her up against the fence, and find a way to get this to the ground. Because the more she stands up with her, the more Holly gets confident. The more Holly feels like she can really win this fight. I feel like if you just took that whole stand-up element out of it, she has a chance. But I think what you saw, and why I talked about the Uriah Faber Mike Brown fight, is you saw that all common sense or all clear thinking of Ronda just went out the window. It did. She got very frustrated. She was getting embarrassed, and you could just see that she was just loading up these big punches, just trying to hit Holly. And that's not Ronda's style. Ronda's style is not just to go out there, swing wildly, and hope to connect. And you could tell her doing this also made her very gassed. Her punches were coming much slower. She was breathing heavily out her mouth, and you knew the end was near. And when she caught her with that head kick, man, I mean, that was one surreal moment. There's few things you don't expect to see when you follow mixed martial arts. You don't expect to see Anderson Silva get knocked out, and you seen it, and it was crazy. It was an unreal experience. You don't expect to see Ronda get knocked out, and you saw it, and it was the exact same feeling I had when Anderson got knocked out. The difference between this and the Anderson fight was most people were picking Chris Weidman to win that fight anyway, so it wasn't like the shock value that you got Saturday when Holly Holm defeated what many people thought was an unbeatable fighter at the 135-pound division for women. And congratulations to Holly Holm. She did a great job, executed the game plan very well. Now, one thing I thought of immediately after the fight when I saw Coach Winklejohn and, when I saw Coach Winklejohn in the cage, and it made me think of Ronda's comments after the weigh-in, saying, "Oh, Greg Jackson, your team, they think they figured me out. They haven't figured me out. Blah blah blah." You could see that kind of validates, not that Winklejohn and Greg Jackson needed validation anyway. They're already considered two of the best coaches in the game. Those two together are just, I think, besides maybe a couple other guys, those are probably the premier guys in the sport to go train for. I think that just solidifies them as a brand, that they could take someone like Holly Holm, who was a huge underdog. Some even had her as big as 9-1, but I think the betting line when it came into the fight was 8-1. They could take her and just have her dominate somebody like Ronda, given time to prepare, given time to really come up with a great strategy on how to beat Ronda. And you heard him say it over and over leading up to the fight. Ronda has holes. Ronda has holes in her game. And Ronda was completely exposed. Just an unbelievable finish to what was a pretty lackluster night. But hats off, man. Hats off. Holly Holm, that is impressive. And they're talking about an immediate rematch, which I completely agree with. Ronda's been the only champ in that division. She's ran through people left and right. She's done everything the organization's asked her to do. She deserves an immediate rematch. And Holly, like the true champion she is, said absolutely. So, the rematch will be interesting to hear people's take coming up to that fight. Because I think you're going to have a lot of people saying, well, what can Ronda do in the second fight that she didn't do in the first fight? And I think the second fight will be much more competitive. I really think a huge factor in this fight was Ronda's ability to think clearly, and you could just see it. And it was, when I was watching it, I immediately thought of Uriah Faber, Mike Brown, because it's something you never see Ronda do. She's just winging wild punches, going crazy, just trying to do anything because she was getting so outclassed, and you don't ever see her outclassed. Ever. It was unreal. I couldn't believe what I was watching. So, that was the main event, and it was unreal. It's something I'm very glad I was able to see. Leading up into the main event, I was pretty disappointed with the card. I thought the co-main event was very good. Just found out that Joanna broke her hand in the fight, and I kind of said that while I was watching the fight. I was telling who I was with, I was saying I think Joanna may have broken her hand, because you look at the way she was throwing punches towards the end of the fight. There really wasn't anything on them. It was kind of just throwing them to set up the leg kick. That was pretty much the tool she used to victory, is just leg kicking. And Valerie Letourneau had no answer for that. And it was not the usual vicious beating that Joanna puts on her girls, but I think Valerie did a great job in this fight. particularly because she's a bigger girl. She's a bigger girl. She's used to getting hit by bigger, stronger women, and I think you could see that she could take Joanna's shots in a way that a lot of the other 115s can't. Because when Joanna hits you, she hits you with such volume, and she hits hard for a 115-pound woman, but Valerie just didn't react like the other girl. She took her best shots and was able to stand in the pocket and give some back to Ioana, which you hadn't seen much of. So for that much, it was a competitive fight. I scored it the same way two of the judges did. I gave 49-46. I thought Valerie won the first round based on the takedown, and the exchanges were pretty even on the feet at that point. But Ioana kind of just steadily every round got better, and Valerie kind of wilted away. But a good co-main and main event for UFC 193. Not really going to talk about the other fights. Just wanted to give my opinion and what I thought of the main event. Fantastic. Congratulations to Holly Holm, and that's all.